But yeah, let's just start. I'll be talking about a different subject, but related, of course, to Airflow, which is the how to contribute to Apache Airflow. Uh, it was great that Pankaj did the introduction to Airflow and shown that, because I used to tell a little bit more about Airflow in the talk, but I don't have to now. Thank you very much for for that, so that everyone knows what Airflow is. A few words about myself. I'm a I'm independent open source contributor and advisor, and I think it's a privilege, and I'm super happy that I can work full time on open source. This is not something that happens quite often, but I managed to do that, and I'm like, this is the best part of my engineering career, I believe, uh, because I work on Airflow for like last 4 years, and last 1 year and a little bit, I'm working full time as a completely independent. So I cooperate with different companies, like Astronomer, for example. They pay a little of my time for a little of my time, and a few other companies as well. So this is actually quite cool. I'm a PMC member and committer in Apache Airflow. But when I started, and this is the important, when I started 4 years ago, I was just a person who started contributing. So that was a road from like starting, like being like making first commits and discussing the making discussions, or participating in discussions in the dev list, and participating in the GitHub discussions. And then I worked out the road from like being just a random person, then the contributor, then the committer, then the PMC member. And actually, if you look at the Airflow Summit, if you are interested in pursuing the career in open source in general, which is very rewarding, there are few talks, and especially in the last Airflow Summit, there was a talk from Ephraim when he talked about his what he learned. Ephraim, he's one of the PMC members, and he also went through the whole, like being intern, contributor, committer, and PMC member. So just watch his talk. He will talk a little bit. It's really interesting to see the road. I will not be talking about that. I will be talking more about how the whole contribution process looks like. I'm also a member of Apache Software Foundation as of February last year, and I'll talk about the foundation a little bit as well during this talk, because this is important. Like, the Airflow is part of a bigger community of Apache Software Foundation, and that makes a really a difference in the project comparing to some other projects. And you can find me on Twitter, GitHub, LinkedIn, very easily. If you are at all involved in any Airflow thing in GitHub or dev list, you will find me everywhere. Generally, it's rather easy. So what Airflow is, Pankaj explained a lot of details there about Airflow, what it does, how it works. But I'll just do a little bit like a big picture. So I'm a choirist as well. I sang for 30 years. I sang in a choir. So for me, the metaphor of orchestra and choir is an easy one. So when you think about all the data processing, when you think about the components that you have, and lots of them, like Docker jobs, Spark jobs, Kubernetes, web services, Google Cloud, Azure, and all the components there that process the data. There are plenty of them, and they do a lot of different kinds of processing. And many companies and many places, those components, they each of them does its job. And if they just work independently, it would be a chaos. It would be complete mess. And the same as orchestra and conductor, you have plenty of instruments playing in orchestra, or plenty of voices singing in a choir. You need someone who will tell when and how to sing and what to do at a given time in order to make a beautiful music. So that's the role of Airflow. Actually, Airflow doesn't do a lot of stuff on its own. It generally tells others what to do, and and basically it does almost nothing like a conductor. Conductor does nothing. It just, there are all those jokes that conductor just comes and waves the stick for like an hour, and that's it, and then turn back and thanks. So basically, Airflow does the same. It does nothing, but it's super important because it tells others what to do and when and how to pass the data between each component. And that's why it's super important that it keeps everything in order. And this is like great feature of Airflow, that it can help you to organize the work, the processing, the data processing you have. And this is like amazing feature of Airflow, the one that I loved from the first time when I looked at it, because it helps you to organize the chaos in a very efficient way. But what's super important in Airflow is the community. Community around Airflow is rather strong, I would say. We are the most contributed project in Apache Software Foundation as of November last year. We passed Spark. We have more than 2,100 contributors to Airflow, so people who actually contributed some code or change in our repository. And that's a lot. Like 2,000 people, that's a lot. And yes, like how to do that so that those people can contribute efficiently. This is you need to know how the community works, and learning how community works is something that I want to talk about today, so that you can realize it's like most of you are users, so people who are using Airflow, and that's perfectly fine. Like we are developing Airflow for our users. They're the users. But some of you might become the contributors, and then later committers, PMC, and just contribute to Airflow. And you need to know what you are signing up to. So this is the important thing, because you need to know how it works in order to know if you want to do it, because not everybody wants to do it. But if you find what I talk about today interesting, I heartily welcome you and encourage you to do that, because this is like an amazing adventure, actually. So Airflow belongs to the Apache Software Foundation, and what's important in the foundation is that it provides guidelines and principles how the projects are developed. There are more than 300 projects in Apache Software Foundation and 800 members, and it has a very lightweight structure. It's not like a corporate; it's a charity organization, U.S. Delaware charity. So it is there to do good in general. It is not there for profit. Basically, no one in Apache Software Foundation, except a few people in infrastructure, earn any money. There is a board which is elected every year. They get exactly $0 salary, like everyone else contributing. And this is very interesting, that the Apache Software Foundation gives the kind of framework and principles, and it keeps it makes it, there are some procedures and processes to keep stuff uh, according to the Apache way, which is the guidelines and principles. So projects are reviewed, the board is reviewing the reports and stuff like that. But this is very lightweight. Each project is managed independently. What is important? There are a few important things. There is an Apache 2.0 license on the software, which basically means uh, you can do everything with the software. And this is very like founding principle of Apache Software Foundation. The foundation does everything, that anyone who takes the software can do anything with it without paying. And this is amazing how it works, but it works. And actually, this is a big important principle, because companies and like big corporates who are investing and using Airflow, for example, they are sure that nobody will prevent them from doing something. If they want to fork and make their own version, no problem. If they want to redistribute it to somebody else, pack it together and make a service out of that, no problem. We are we're super welcoming if other companies are building business on top of Airflow, even if they or any other projects in Apache Software Foundation, even if Foundation doesn't earn any money on that. And it's amazing how it works. That would be a topic for like 5 other talks, I guess. And actually, if you are interested, there is Apachecon Conference every year. This year it's going to be in New Orleans, a physical one, a first one for 3 years, because last 2 years were online. and lots of things are said how this works, and it's amazing. Uh, the important part of it is like community over code. The code is important. I mean, what you get, you see, what you use as a user is the code, but the code is actually a result of a thriving community that works together. And community means people who are contributing, users, uh, people who are building services like Astronomer and Google Cloud or Amazon NWAA. They are also part of the community. So the community is much bigger than people who are contributing, and community is the most important. So our job also as a PMC members, especially in Airflow, is to make sure that we create an environment that is welcoming for the community, whatever it means, and whoever the community is. But everyone in the community is important to us. So there is this nice link you can look up later when the Apache way is explained how it works. Um, Coming to a little bit more details about like how Airflow works and like how it is organized, there are several roles you can assume in Airflow, and this is important in any project in Apache Software Foundation. In any project, there is no like manager or boss. There's no one is a boss. No one is deciding. The community as a whole is deciding. There are some roles that people can assume, and most of those roles are either because they volunteered to do that. They like, I want to do this. I want to be a release manager, for example. I volunteer for it, for example. Uh, so this is a role what you can assume. There are a few roles that are connected with the permissions and what you can do in the project, because it cannot be an anarchy. So there are some rules. So contributor to Airflow, you can be, anyone can be contributor, and you can contribute code, but also non-code, and that I will talk about that in a moment. But there is no limit. Anyone can become a contributor at any time. This is no problem whatsoever. You can, if you see a problem in a documentation, you can fix it. No problem. I mean, you can contribute that. You can just make a PR and fix it. And we are actually encouraging people to do so. Like whenever somebody complains or points that there is a problem in the documentation, then the usual response that you can expect, yes, please fix it. There is a problem. Please fix it. I mean, there is no problem. I mean, you can do that. Anyone can do that. It's easy, actually. Then, when you are contributing a lot to the project, after some time, you will be noticed, hopefully, or actually, you have to make sure that what you do is kind of like it's visible. Then you can be invited by the PMC members, which is another level in a moment. You can be invited to be a committer, and this comes only by invitation. This is a meritocracy. That's what was the name of Airflow, of Apache approach, and part of the Apache way is, which means that you have to earn your merit in order to be invited as a committer. So you have to show that you know how the project works, that you are dedicated, that you can put your time and effort, and that you've done enough contributions to earn your reputation there. And this is very important. There is no levels. You are not appointed. You don't have any, more permissions because you are a manager, or if you have, even if you have like 20 years of experience in software development, it doesn't matter. I mean, what matters is what you contribute, and this is what decides whether you are invited to be committer or not. So basically, you have to earn your reputation. And this is super important for the whole project. Then, if you are a committer, after some time, you might be invited to be a PMC member when you not only contribute the code, but you show that you know how the project works, that you show that you care about the project being compliant with the Apache way. And this is another level. And when you're a PMC member, we have probably like 30 of them in Airflow, I think, more or less. Then you can actually decide who to invite, and that's basically it. And take care about security. It doesn't give you any more permissions, any more vote or anything. Like if you're a committer, you have just one vote for any decisions made in Airflow, but PMC doesn't have any more vote. is more responsibility, because you also have the responsibility and you sign for it. You actually sign an agreement with Apache Software Foundation that you will use your individual judgment and your own decisions in order to make the project follow the Apache way. This is also rather important for the healthiness of the community. So there are a few rules that are super important. Transparency. So every decisions, every reasons why we made decision is discussed at the mailing list. That might seem old, like we have Slack and you have all the new tools like Zoom and calls and whatever, where you can discuss things and we do. But the mailing list is a kind of baseline and an important. Whenever there is an important decision, we have to announce and discuss it on the dev list to give everyone chance to participate. And any discussions, it will take time, like, because we are in a distributed environment. Like, I'm in Poland now, 8 a.m. in the morning, you are in India, and like, if you make a decision quickly, you will not give a chance to take part in the decision. If I'm on, like, if there is a weekend, or few of our committers are from Israel, so they have a free day on Friday and they work on Sunday. So if we decide on Friday, they have no chance, if they do the work, to decide. So we have some rules about how we vote, how we decide on important things. This is all very well described. We can only implement something that everyone can, everyone agrees on, like it's a consensus driven development. So people have to agree in general on something. If we cannot get to consensus, we vote. And what is important also, there is no magical someone who runs the project. It's everyone does it. Basically, if you want to implement something, the best way how to do that, you just go and implement it. And nobody will stop you from doing that unless you're doing something that, like, everyone, like, people don't agree with. You discuss it first. If people agree with that, then you can do whatever you want, whatever is needed for the project to complete. But also, this is a burden a little bit, because there is no someone like in the company that can make this happen. It's like, if you think something should be done, you just do it. And this is quite amazing, and amazing that it works actually. A little bit of history. So Airflow has a long history already. It was incubated in because there is a process of incubation. Every project that comes to the Apache Software Foundation has to be go through incubation period to prove that it follows the Apache way. So it was incubated from Airbnb in 2016. It took a few years to become the top level project, so called, like, go through the incubation phase, and this is like, it follows the rules. Then so in 2019, and I was already part of the project by that time, but not really a committer yet. I became a committer sometime in 2019. The beginning in 2019, it was incorporated as top level project of Apache Software Foundation. Then we, as you see, like, okay, so this is an interesting graph to show how the how the activity was on the project. So you can see that in Airbnb it was like there were lots of activities. Then it died out a little bit in terms of, like, it was slowly building the kind of grounds level in order to become a top level project. And once it became the top level project, you can see that activity in the project, number of commits and people committing, and generally all the activity with the project grew quite fast and a lot. This is like number of commits every week, I believe, 100 commits every week, a lot. And then I think the turning point was beginning of 2021 when we released Airflow 2. Airflow 1 was developed for a long time, and it has some baggage that we get rid of. Airflow 2 was backwards incompatible in some ways, small ways, but Airflow 2 was the first kind of, like, very, very solid and modern way of developing of modern application in general, or modern platform. And since then, we regularly, every few months, release new versions with new features, and this is continuing. So we are working on new features quite a lot. So there is as you see, and the community is huge. The project is one of the biggest projects I ever worked on in general, and it's very active and thriving right now in terms of development, not only the use. And we have like the proof of that is like Airflow Summit. We mentioned that several times, and Pankaj already mentioned that as well. So we had Airflow Summit, which was completely distributed all over the world, as you see all the cities there. So they do this like physical event, but it was also online. So every physical event was also transmitted as online event, and we've done a lot of effort to make this all happen in 1 week. There are plenty of videos, plenty of information that you can see in YouTube and watch, and you can even look up. I created so I watched the whole Airflow Summit for you. If you want to learn more about Airflow, uh, I just created. There is a Medium post that I created. You will find it very easily, like Airflow Summit, the best of Airflow Summit 2022, the best of. And I actually wrote what you can learn from those talks, from every single talk that was there, like a single sentence, what you can learn from it. So if you are looking for something to learn, just look at my post and you can see which talks you should watch. And they were almost all, but pretty much all of them were amazing, and it's good to watch them. Who are the main players? Pankaj already mentioned that there are like service providers like Astronomer, Google Cloud, Amazon. They all provide Airflow as a service, but also there are other big ones like Databricks, Cloudera. We are at Cloudera right now. We are at Cloudera, Cubol, that are both users and providers in some ways. So like they expose Airflow in some ways to their users. Uh, there are direct users. Airbnb, Airflow was originally created in Airbnb, and they are actually contributing a lot recently back again. Twitter, Uber, Lyft, Snowflake, Simple, and Wix. Those are the last two I mentioned. There are more my customers. I work with them also directly. They all have all internally using Airflow, and the dish the initiative that Pankaj mentioned also is a good example of a great user of Airflow. And you can check out, there is a in the wild MD file in Airflow repository where people are mentioning who they are and where Airflow is used, and the list is quite impressive. I don't know, it's like four, no, I don't even know how many, but there are thousands of users. But also there are consultants or people who are actually like integrating Airflow with. There are a number of companies you can look up. I won't mention them here. There will be kind of advertisement. There are software houses. That's how my story started. So my software house was a hired software house to contribute to Airflow, and that's what my story with Airflow started. But there are also individuals like me who are just contributing to Airflow in their either free or paid time. So those are mostly the players. Now, like, why would you like to contribute to Airflow or any other project, not only Airflow, any other open source project? There are some reasons, and there are some reasons which are altruistic. Like, for example, and one that I always or often talk to people, like, if you are using a free software for free, uh, you got some, loan to pay. Just paying back to the contributors feels good because you are using some other people work, so giving back is a good idea, just to to feel good. uh, but also when you're contributing, you are sharing your experience with others. You might know better about like how to use like this particular service, or solve particular problems. And some people like me, like, I love to share what I've learned with others, because this is something that I like make me happy, or make me more, I don't know, I feel more useful in general. um, Also, the important thing, there are really nice people in the community. We have lots of different kinds of people, but they are generally welcoming. Of course, they have to be, and I sometimes am very assertive at some point of time. If you're expecting from them much more than they are ready to give, they will tell you that. and that's an important aspect as well. But in general, if you nicely ask for things or nicely ask for help, if you show that you've done your part, if you show that you're investing your own time, they will be happy to help you. And they are pretty nice people, I think. Even though sometimes the interface is rough, and sometimes like you can lose a lot of emotions with the written communication. Just have to be prepared for that. You also want to make a world a better place. Some people are motivated by that. But what is important, like, this is not like a charity from everyone who is involved. So you don't, like, people think of open source like, okay, everyone does it for free, and this is like nobody gets anything from that. Like, nobody gets money from that. That's for sure. But there are plenty of reasons and plenty of things you can get back from contributing, which are more important than money. First of all, if you have your changes and deploy it in your own version of Airflow, you can contribute it back to the community, and then community will keep on maintaining that. You don't have to do that. So when there is a new version of Airflow, your change will be there already. You don't have to apply it again. So this is if you feel the need of modifying Airflow and running it with some modifications, contributing it back is just the best way to keep your Airflow updated without any effort or with very limited effort. Your company might pay you, because if the company uses Airflow, they are actually often happy to make a better use of it. Like, this is like, for example, I have my agreements with Vix and World Simple, for example. Those are my customers. They run Airflow internally, and then they are willing to pay me to help them, their employees, to make it better, to make the better use of it. And if you're an internal employee in a company, you can also approach them. Okay, I want to make it better for the company, so I have to contribute to the community, because then it will be better for the company, and you can simply get paid for it. This is great. When you contribute to Airflow or any other big and thriving open source software, they are the best people there. I think I've like I've worked for more than 20 years in the industry, 25 even. Yeah, I'm that old. Uh, but I think I've met the best people, and I've learned most over the last 4 years of developing Airflow. In many ways, like, I've learned how to really communicate with people, how to commit code, how to really make a good use of testing, and lots of the stuff which I knew and used in the past, but now I'm using it consistently, and I've learned from those people who has done the best stuff. Like, for example, we have a long time committer to Django, which is one of our contributors, and I've learned a lot from him. Or we have a pip maintainer, PP from Taiwan, and he's amazing, and I've learned so much on like how pip works from, and lots of other stuff from him, and you can just interact with the best people there. And you can interact with many different kinds of people, not only contributors and people who write the code, but also like product managers, or people who organize conferences, people who write newsletters for Airflow, and lots of other people actually. And you can build your own personal brand and recognition. The What Mohammed mentioned before about me being a little bit like recognized in the community is because I worked hard to get there, and that's one of the things that I get from the community, because that makes it easier, and then you can build your own reputation. It's your own commits, they are assigned to you. Airflow and Apache Software Foundation is all about individuals. Individuals are important, not where they work. So whenever you contribute to Airflow, you contribute as yourself. If you change your job, it will go with you, not with the job that you were working on before. This is like amazing, and I've never realized that before, that by contributing to Apache project, you're contributing as yourself, and everything that you do stays with you, and that's your history, not company that you worked with or you were employed with. And that's amazing that you can actually start building your own brand and reputation in the community this way. And if you follow that, you can build your career in there. There are plenty of projects and opportunities in open source that you can contribute and get paid for. Like me, I got now a very decent salary when I count all the all the money I got from different sources as an individual contributor, and that's a viable career. You can build it. You can do it yourself. Um, what's important? Important, and this is something that not many people realize. When you sign up for contributing to open source, you sign up for a lot of talks, a lot of discussions, a lot of communication. It's not writing code. Writing code is a very, very small part of it. But to know what kind of code you write and to communicate with others and making sure that you're doing the right thing, this is the important thing. And as an engineer, you have to learn that. You have to learn that just the code is not enough. And open source community is great for that, because if you don't communicate well, if you don't learn how to explain what you want to do, why you want to do, discuss, and even like sometime even be harsh or use different kinds of emotions in the communication, you won't succeed. There's no way. So you have to learn how to communicate. Then there is this important thing: if it didn't happen on the dev list, it didn't happen. You have to communicate what you want to do, and especially important changes, publicly, and not assume that if you even like talked on the Slack with somebody that things are agreed. No, you have to learn how to communicate in the community so that others know that you like the community is involved. The GitHub, you have discussions, PR, and issues. There are lots of discussions there. They are important for like the dev list is like for really important subject, like how do we approach this kind of big problem. Then in the PR you can discuss a lot of details about particular thing that you are working on, or when you have a question and you want to discuss some smaller thing, you can open GitHub discussions. There are issues that you can raise. So all this is a lot of communication. Code is really small part of it, and you have to be prepared for that. Finally, when you have something really huge to implement and you discussed it and you agreed that this is a good idea, then you write an Airflow improvement proposal. And there, a lot of communication is like writing down what you want to implement and how, and discuss all the details of why this is good, what are alternatives, what do you want to achieve, like what's the objective, what you don't want to achieve by implementing it. As those Airflow improvement proposals are a very detailed description of the things that you plan to implement, especially when they are really huge. And that's something that you eventually have to do if you want to make a change in the community. Then there is a Slack where we discuss stuff like quickly, asking quick questions, discussing stuff, and all the discussions there is also public. So what is important for community discussions, the discussions, and coming back a little bit to that, so any discussions which are not public, which happen, like it's perfectly okay to speak with some other committers about stuff in one-to-one discussion, but anything that comes out of that has to be brought to the public so that others can see that. There is no like background chatter or shadow decision making. Decision making happens in public. This is super important. Unlike in many companies where there are some shadow ways how things are decided, in Airflow everything is transparent and public and publicly communicated, and in any other Apache Software Foundation project. And there are like the important thing that there are code contributions, so you can contribute your code, but you can also contribute to Airflow in many different ways. You can organize meetups. Mohammed organizing meetup here is contributing to Airflow, and thank you for that. That's fantastic. Yeah, you participating in the meetup as well are also contributing in some ways, especially if there are like questions and if there are follow-ups and if you learn from that. This is also part of it. Airflow Summit, as I mentioned, you can organize Airflow Summit. We can co-organize and help with that. We have lead these 13 places in the world which organized local events. So people who were running those events, they were just local people who are active in the community and they are contributing. And this is great that they've done that. You can write blogs. You can take part in creating a newsletter. So there is like when there is a newsletter prepared, it's publicly discussed on the dev list as well. So you can take part in making some contributions there and in preparing the monthly newsletter we are sending. There is a website where you can improve the design and contribute to it from the website point of view, or from even like structuring the way how we present the documentation. This is also a great contribution. You can report issues, and if you report them in detail enough that we can analyze them and help you and improve the project, this is like one of the best contributions. Reporting an issue in the way that is reproducible, it's easy to understand what's the problem is, etc. This is like fantastic contribution for the community, because even if you don't fix it and we fix it easily, others will make use of that. Helping others to troubleshoot, or helping to triage the issues. So like discuss, is this really an issue, or is it your problem, or is it something that you can improve? This is an important contribution. Evangelizing Airflow, telling people that how great it is, how you are using it, or what you achieve by using it. It's also a great contribution. Of course, there are code contributions, and the obvious one, implementing some features or implementing bug fixing. But there are some not that obvious contributions to the code. Again, raising issues, as I mentioned. This is a great contribution to the code if you are able to analyze your issues and spend your time and discuss like what really you think is wrong, and provide enough evidences and reproduction steps. This is a great contribution, great code contribution, because then you help us to spend as little time on analyzing stuff, and we can just okay, yeah, let's fix it. This is the fix, and we write a PR and implement it, or clarify some issues which others opened, or asking right questions. Changing documentation. Documentation is huge part of the community, because we have no time to talk to everyone. Like we have like 30 committers, or maybe 15 active committers. If people are asking questions, we are not able to answer all the 10,000 or people there. We write the documentation to answer this question, and this documentation is as good as it can be and can be improved. And improving the documentation and giving answer to people without having them to ask them, this is a fantastic contribution. We have also a lot of tooling, and I'm mostly responsible for that in Airflow. I assume the role of the CI master, let's say, and development environment master. I wrote a really nice Breeze development environment for Airflow, and in improving the CI, continuous integration, improving the development environment is also a great contribution. So this is like general workflow that you follow, and I will just very quickly tell about how it works when you want to contribute. So first you need to fork Airflow. You cannot contribute directly to Airflow. You can just have a fork, make pull request from your fork, but it's super easy actually. GitHub is great for that. When you fork the Airflow, you can configure an environment, and we have some like virtual and environment that you can use. Breeze, which is a Dockerized environment, which I wrote and maintain, and it's very easy to start. It's like 5 minutes, and you get the whole environment to run unit tests for Airflow up and running. There is a pre-commit, which is kind of verifies whatever you want to contribute in like hundreds of different aspects. We have like more than 100 pre-commit checks that checks if the code you contribute is good. And actually most of those checks are actually even fixing the code for you, so you should use it. Then what is important, when you contribute something, you connect to it people, join the dev list, set up Slack account, and discuss it on GitHub as well. So it's a big mistake sometimes people do. They just make a PR without telling why they are doing that, what's the problem they are solving, without discussing if it's needed or not. or without even looking at the discussions which are there, because you can find out that this problem has already been discussed and it was rejected for this and that reasons. So just go and check and see and try to see the vibe of the community, and then whenever you start contributing, talking to people is inevitable. You will have to do that this way or the other, either via GitHub discussions or Slack, or just answering the questions, or like connecting with people is super important. People and community is important. Then you prepare the PR from your fork. There are some guidelines and very detailed instructions how to make your PRs. Everything is described very well in Airflow for that. Then there is a PR review process, and this is the important part, because you can don't expect your change will be accepted very quickly. Usually, it can take days or weeks or months sometimes, especially for bigger changes, to go through the review process. It's an iterative process. I'll tell a little bit more about that in a moment. Um, so the important part, like, you don't need to create an issue to make a PR. Yeah, you just make a PR, because then you can discuss over the code, and that's easiest. Provide a good description of what you want to do. Then you have to be a little bit patient and persistent because of this distributed nature of Airflow and people who are all over the world in different time zones, etc. So don't expect very, very quick answers, but be nice and friendly to people. This is important. If somebody is criticizing your code, then take it as a criticizing of the code, not yourself. Yeah, and learn from that. This is important as well, because you can learn a lot from that, and be open to applying changes. Be open even to removing completely the code you wrote and writing it again. This is normal. This happened, and try to understand that people have less time or work in different time zones, etc. So you have to be a little empathetic when you do that, and sometimes it might take weeks, and sometimes you can see different opinions from different people. So part of the contribution there, or part of the contribution workflow, is like you have to work out the consensus, and that's part of your job as well. Like, you can see that two committers can have different opinions, and you have to try to navigate that, and that's an interesting one. So quickly about like how to start your journey. There is a contributing documentation. There is a contributor quick start documentation that you can follow. You can see the list of first good issues that you can work on. So there is like when you go to this link, there is like contribute link. You can see list of issues that are probably simple to start with, and you can look through them and pick one and start working on it. We have very, very detailed documentation of how to set up the local virtual environment and Breeze, which is the Dockerized environment, and you can just follow it. So we have lots of documentation. It's overwhelming initially, but the quick start, step by step, you can just follow it just in your own pace, and then you will get there. How to get help? What is important? There is no single person that you should reach out. There is a community. So whenever you reach out for help, reach out in a public channel. This might be a little bit intimidating, because you are telling, I have a problem. It's kind of opening yourself. But this is the best way how you can get help, because you can get help from anyone. Anyone who will see that maybe will be able to help, although you shouldn't expect that. Sometimes you need to be, because different people have different experience. Most active users are not really regular. Active committers are not regular users, so they might not understand your question or might not see the problem that you have. Maybe you need to explain it again, or a little bit differently. But you can get help from other users as well. So this is important. Like, when you ask in public, the other users can help you, not only committers. And this is actually happening all the time, and I'm amazed how the community works. And what is important is like those users and community are the biggest asset of Airflow. Like, this is like comparing to all many other projects which are open source, but they don't have such big community from different companies or individuals. Like, they don't have that much of a vibe and that much of a kind of nice people who are helping and people who are, you can learn from. This is like the absolute biggest asset of Airflow to those people who are there. And uh, for troubleshooting, if you have any help, Slack and GitHub discussions, those are the two channels that are usually the best to discuss stuff. Issues, and this is important, like when you create an issue, this is something that should be reproducible back in Airflow, or a feature that is small enough that you can create it to be able, like, to inspire others to implement something. But if you want to discuss or troubleshoot, the Slack or GitHub discussions are much better for that, because that doesn't force the issue to be resolved. Like when you create an issue, it, the life cycle of it is like it gets resolved or closed at some point of time. Discussions are just going on, and if you have some discussion, that's just start discussion, or start discussion in Slack. You can go to the Slack. This is the way how you sign up to Slack of Airflow, and we have 16,000 users there. That's like 16,000 users in Slack. This is like a lot. Yesterday I accidentally upgraded it to like trial of the pro version of Slack, and I calculated that if we wanted to migrate actually to a pro version, because we are on the free version, we would have to pay $100,000 a month to Slack because of this number of users, which we obviously we have no money for that. So we will go back to free version. You can ask any kind of question, but important is like when you're asking question, you show that you've done your part. It's not good if you have a problem and you directly send a question to Slack and say like, solve me the problem. This probably will not lead you anywhere. You will just get annoyed people to tell you, yeah, did you look at the problem? Or yeah, it's obvious, just Google it. Yeah. So like you do have to make your own investment. If you really have a problem that you tried to solve it, that you tried to understand that and show that, then you will have a much bigger chance that people will help you, and they will do it gladly, because they will see that you're not there to to suck the energy from the people and get your problem solved for you, but that's something that you're also contributing back, your own investment. And sometimes you need to ask several times, because people are in different time zones. They might not notice your question, or it might get lost. You have to be respectful for that as well. That it's like there's a lot of traffic there, basically. But people are generally helpful. And if you give help to others, then more likely you will get help back. So this is an important part of the community. Help others, and then when you have a problem, the others will be more happy to help you. This is what happens all the time. I have a number of people that I see, they are like really useful for the community. When they raise the problem because they don't understand something, then I immediately jump to help them, because I know if I help them, then they will later help others. And this is like amazing part of the community. And you don't have to know who you should ask. You just ask the question in the right channel. There are a few channels that are important. There's like troubleshooting channel that you can ask for troubleshooting in general. So yeah, troubleshooting, newbie questions, development, those are three important ones. There are some dedicated ones like AWS, GCP, and few other channels where you can ask questions. And you don't have to know who to ask. Just ask there and hope for answer. If you don't get answer, ask again and remind like, oh, I asked that, and after some time, day or two. Don't expect the answers to come very quickly. But if you don't see that, just remind, because it might be lost among other questions. So what you need to do to get the better chance to get the help, just be present, read what happens on the dev list, don't ask questions that have already been discussed just recently, be active in the discussion, help others, be very personal. This is important. This is not a help desk when you ask for help. It's there are people who are contributing their own time often, and help in their free time or weekend or whatever. So treat them as people, be empathetic, and don't treat them as help desk don't demand answer from them. So when you raise issues, show that you've done your part. I told about that. Give the maximum information you can, and nicely ask for help. Don't demand it. This is the important part. This is a free project. Most of the people are not like me that they are paid for the project. And even if I am paid, I'm not paid to troubleshoot problems of people. I'm paid to contribute in general. So if you ask for help, just nicely ask, not demand, because this is not a help. This is not a paid project that you can expect some service level agreement and stuff like that. And if you know people who are involved in the problem that you have, just ping them in Slack or ping them in issues. Don't do it in private discussions, and this is important. Private discussions are not there for troubleshooting, because the problem is if you are talking in private to me, for example, nobody else can see that, nobody else can benefit from that, nobody else can help, because you demand from me an attention and nobody else can even see that. This is wrong. So just do it on in public channels. Okay, that's it. I got a little bit over time, sorry for that. I hope that that's been useful. Now I think the time for questions, if there are any.
Okay, don't ask all at once, one by one.
No questions?
Hi, Jarek. So I had a question. So uh, 2, 3 times I was really interested in contributing to Airflow, and I went and I looked at the good first issues. But most of them, you yourself have put a message asking the person who's reported the issue to try contributing, or most issues after 2, 3 days, good first issues, they get taken. Now, as a new contributor, how do I find issues easily, which I think I can spend a good amount of time in, if there are lot of active contributors already taking issues?
You know, the good answer for that is there is no, let's say, when you are contributing to Airflow and to any other Apache Software Foundation project, you should contribute like you take the ownership. So this is the important part. So if you want to contribute and see that some other people I asked someone else to contribute, it doesn't mean that someone else have to contribute. You can say, yeah, I want to contribute, just comment on it. And then and you can see that in many cases there was like, okay, some people started to work on an issue but they didn't progress, and somebody else said, I want to work on that. Is it free? When you comment on an issue, that also opens up a possibility, then I can assign you the issue, because before that I cannot do that. I can only assign an issue to someone who commented on the issue. So then I or any other committer can assign it to you, and then you will be just working on it, even if somebody started. And then you can say, I want to do it. Is it okay? And usually the person who has no time will respond, yeah, feel free, go ahead and continue working on that. Or even if not, even if we have two contributions for the same issue coming from two different people, this is not a problem. We are not afraid of that, or you shouldn't be afraid of that. It's like those might be two competing solutions, and then we can see, okay, this one is better than that one, and you can learn from that. I mean, you don't have, even if the other contribution is merged, this is like a good discussions to happen, and this is great. So basically just find the right issue that you think you can work on and comment, I want to work on it. This is the way to start, basically, in any circumstances, no matter if somebody is working on that or if I asked somebody, it doesn't really matter. Just pick it and tell, I want to work on it. This is also the part of the communities is important. You yourself decide on what you are working. This is super important. There is no one to tell you what to do. This is a very difficult part of community, but a very rewarding one if you are self-driven. If you are self-driven, you can just say, okay, I want to work on that, and everybody will say, fantastic, do that. Just work on it. Just make sure that you do it in the right way, so the discussions will be there. But if you want to spend your time and energy, just do it. That's it.
Yeah, thanks for answering.
And Surya, ping me later, okay? I'll get you one of these. I'll ship you one of these. Thank you for taking it in back.
Hey Jarek, I have a question. So, like,
Recording in progress.
hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
So I have a question. So I have been looking into the Airflow API like from some time, but they are generally into the experimental phase, right? So I don't like find a proper documentation, or if at all I find a endpoint, I don't find like what parameters it take or what are the arguments does it require, right? So any idea about the road ahead? I mean, plan ahead about it.
Well, I think you are looking in the wrong place, because in Airflow 2 we got a full REST API which has a Swagger UI, and it is open API generated. The old API which you are referring to as experimental is deprecated, is not used anymore. And there are, if you look at the Airflow documentation, there are two points there, like experimental API and REST API. So you look at the REST API, and this is the one that is really very well documented, because it's generated from OpenAPI automatically, and it is like it has a number of different, you can even the Swagger UI is even built in the Airflow itself. So if you go to the Airflow admin, or I can't remember the menu, you can just open a UI where you can even try the API yourself by just adding parameters from the list and running a query or running an API call. So it's like you must be looking at the old experimental API.
Right. I generally go or land up at the experimental API pages. I generally look around, try out different things like which seems logical, but then it doesn't work out for me. Maybe I will look into the Swagger API.
I can actually, I'll show that if I can share it now. Let me see. Yeah. So I'll show you that. Okay, it's slow, but what's wrong? Okay, there it goes. So you see there is the documentation of Airflow. So you can see that there is this deprecated REST API, and there is the stable REST API. So this is the one that you should look like, and this is what you get when you go there. So you can see all the description. I don't know if you see that, but you see it's really well documented, and it has all the even examples, and you can run the you can even run the query from here directly.
Sure. Thank you. I will surely take a look into it.
Hi, Jarek. I have a question regarding like Airflow API infrastructure in terms of security. If someone want to contribute in terms of security aspects of using the APIs, so how the process of approval and all goes in terms of security?
So, well, there is no special process for that. Like when you want to. So when you see a security issue, a problem with security, and want to report it, then there is a security policy in our GitHub. When you go to new issue creation, you can find a link like the security, how to report the security issues. So you should go through the responsible disclosure process, which is like sending a private email, sending email to security@apache.org that you have a problem. Then this gets routed to the PMC, and all the stuff, if this is a real security issue that we should deal with, this will be handled in private without going to the transparent, channels before it gets fixed. Just responsible disclosure as usual. So if you think there is a security vulnerability, go that route. Send an email first, following this.
Rather than posting on public.
Yeah. So but if this is like general kind of I don't know, adding new authentication method or anything like that, this is just a normal process of going through the PR review. If it's not revealing any potential security problem, then you can just commit it as a regular PR. Nothing special about that.
Thanks, Jarek.
Thank you for the question.
I have a question, Jarek. I don't know if it's a right question for this forum. I was just curious to know the contrast between Airflow versus Uber Cadence. If you can shed some light, that would be great.
Airflow versus what? Sorry, I couldn't hear that.
Uber Cadence.
I don't know that.
Oh, excellent. Fine.
So, just to tell a little bit, like Airflow is, I think, one of the most popular workflow orchestrators out there. There are a number of smaller ones, but Airflow has a huge community and huge user base. I think this is one of the, like, even looking at the number of people we had at the summit, which was like more than 8,000 or about 8,000 people watching the summit. That's quite popular. I'm not sure about the one that you mentioned. I haven't heard of it before, so maybe it's not that popular.
All right.
Hi.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Jack, I have one query. Like, if I don't have a good hands-on experience on the coding and anything like that, but I want to have a active member of the community and give the contributions only for the documentation part. So, will that be considered as a good community support, or like? So, if I just
Yes,
want to improve the documentation, that's it.
absolutely. This is like those are one of the best contributions, because the problem with documentation that we have, or maybe not like we have the problem, but often when we write the documentation as maintainers, we have a lot of knowledge about Airflow and a lot of assumptions in our heads. So our documentation is not as good for users who want to learn, because we don't write the basic stuff which we know by heart. And if users are contributing the documentation, this is the best contribution ever, because they write it in the way that they wanted to see that themselves. So if you understood how things work and want to describe it, such a contribution is great, and it's fantastic. And it's actually super easy, because we have it very nicely integrated with GitHub. So if you go to our documentation page, whatever the documentation is, you can actually very easily contribute just the documentation, and I can show you actually that very quickly.
Yeah.
Maybe I can share it, because this is actually super simple, and not everyone realizes how simple it is. For example, we have this let's say let me see, I'm sharing that now. So let me see, like there is like a time zones documentation, for example. Yeah, so there is a documentation here. We can and then there is this button on the bottom right, suggest a change on this page, and when you click it, this is like fantastic, because what you get a PR with the source code of the documentation, and you can just edit it here, whatever you want, add a new documentation or update it. And once you've done that, you just click propose changes, and it will open a PR from your fork automatically. So you don't have to have any environment or anything. You can edit the documentation directly in the GitHub UI. And this is something that people don't realize. I keep on telling people how easy it is. And this is one of the best contributions you can make, basically. If you want to
Got it. Thanks, Jarek. But just last part of it. So, will the number of PRs we have submitted been recorded somewhere, or uh, this individual has submitted this number of PRs?
This is all public and visible, and people are able to see stuff. So I can again sharing again. So if you look here, for example, at my profile and in GitHub, yeah, you will see that. So this is like how many contributions you make. So if you look for me, like a few years ago, this looked like this. So I didn't do a lot of contributions back then, but since I started working on Airflow, you can see how how big number of contributions I've started to make, and this is something that everyone can see. on your private account. This is like how you build your reputation, and eventually, and this is maybe something that you can see. Each project has insights, and you can see how many. Yeah, I am quite a big, quite. I do quite a lot of contributions into Airflow. So this is like 1 week or 3 days or 24 24 hours commits, yeah, and you can see everyone who contributed here, and even here when you look at contributors, you can just see who contributed how many, and you can see the rank there. So all this is visible. All this is something that you can actually even share in your CV, and you can boast about that. You can be very proud about that. So this is fantastic that it's automatically recorded and visible and public.
Thank you, Jarek.
Jarek, I had a question. So a question that was just raised about comparison between Airflow and the uh, application which was mentioned. So I have in my particular company they are using Control M and AutoSys. So if I talk about Control M versus AutoSys versus Airflow, so what benefits do we have in Airflow? Like if we plan to incorporate Airflow to schedule our jobs, what benefits will we get as compared to Control M and AutoSys?
Okay, Control M I know. Actually, the story is the first job I've done in 1997, which is 25 years ago, have involved Control M, the job scheduling. That was on mainframes, on like all the days. So Control M has a huge history and it's corporate, and it's paid. First of all, it's very expensive as far as I know, and Airflow is free. You can use it for free, and it's very well. It has great community. It is modern. It has integration with like everything that you can imagine, and then it's much more flexible than many other solutions, because Airflow is Python based, and everything you write is Python code. So you don't declare your workflows. You don't drag and drop them. You can if you want. There are some integrations that allow that, but in general, it's Python. It's super flexible, and that makes it extremely flexible solution that you can do almost anything you want in it. Control M has some limitation from what I know, and it also doesn't move as fast as Airflow to get new stuff, because we have a huge community of people who are willing to contribute, like Databricks integration, for example, or tabular integration. Like today, this morning, or yesterday actually, I released a new wave of providers integrations with Airflow, and one of them was tabular integration. Somebody contributed, and like long-time committer, for example, he committed tabular integrations. It's gonna be there, released in a few days after we vote on it, and you can start using it. It will be like 78th integration or something, 78th provider with Airflow, and you can even very easily write your own integrations and make Airflow communicate with anything else you want. So I would say flexibility, the freedom, the community, the lack of it's basically no limits. Yeah, you can do whatever you want with orchestration with Airflow.